Hey guys, Dan here with Battlefield Curator, and I just came back from Edgefield, South Carolina, and I learned a lot from Brian over at BDL LTD. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Lee Enfields. He even went to England to learn about the maintenance and the repair and restoration of Lee Enfield rifles. He knows so much, and there's actually so many details about Lee Enfields, and this is what you need to know. This is what you need to look at when you're inspecting your Lee Enfield rifles, because there's so many little things that can happen that can cause issues further down the line. So the first thing we're going to talk about is proper disassembly. So this is just a sporterized Lee Enfield, so we're just going to use this as an example, but if this was our actual Lee Enfield, the first thing that you would need to do when you're taking apart these Lee Enfields is there's different size screw heads, so you would need to get the proper fitting screwdriver. Proper fitting screwdriver looks kind of like this, where the screwdriver head fits right into the head of the screw as perfectly as possible. And then don't use like your standard pack of screwdrivers. You want to use like actual screw heads that fit perfectly. Because of the regular screwdrivers, if they're angled like a chisel shape, they will strip the screws really fast, and you don't want that to happen. So once you've taken apart the screws here, essentially when you take the action apart, you do not want to remove the buttstock. You don't want to remove the buttstock first. There's a video on YouTube that shows removing the buttstock first. You do not want to do that. You want to remove the forestock before you remove the buttstock, because there's a screw that comes in that's in here that if you try to unscrew it, you will crack the forestock, and then you're pretty much out of a forestock, which is really hard to find these days. So how you would take off the forestock here is you would need to lift straight up as best as possible. So if you lift straight up, you should have no issues clearing the back draws here from the action. The improper way to take the action off is to lift from the front first. If you lift from the front first, what happens is you will round off these draws here, and you don't want that to happen. You want this stock to fit nice and tight. All right, so now that we're on forestock, you want to make sure that there's that metal plate here. You want to look for any cracks in the forestock here, any missing wood pieces. This one's missing a piece that kind of fits between this screw, this dowel screw right here. It's without that piece, you're going to render it inoperable. You really want that piece in there. Even if it's cracked, it's still good, but if it's missing, it's not going to be that great. You want to check this area here for any cracks that going along here. You want to check cracks around here. You might see some forming around there. You want to check for cracks right here, cracks up in here. You want to check to see if there's and this one is missing. So it has the metal piece in there to hold to stabilize the screw, but it's missing a piece of wood here. All right, so the draws back here, they need to be pretty much fitting to the stock, and if they're rounded off, that's going to pretty much cause inaccuracy issues, and eventually it'll cause cracking issues. You really want this these back here to be really tight fitting, and there's like a slant that they actually slide into the action here. So if it's slanted, that's great, and that's what you want. You want it to be slanted. Pretty much if like in this stock, it's missing one of the draws, it cracked away and broke off. So this stock is definitely not operable. It's not serviceable. And the other draw here is very rounded. It's kind of messed up here. It's chipped. So that one's pretty messed up. It's a pretty messed up stock. The way to fix that, he explained, was to pretty much just pretty much knock this whole thing out. You know, saw it away, and then stick a block of oak in here, the grains facing this way, and then just get in there, dowel it. You could dowel it and then get in there and just chip away, or just chisel away until you get the correct fitting, the correct everything just got to be perfect to get it to fit in there, right? So you just got to slowly chisel away and work around. You need to make sure that everything is proper. So there's a lot of work that goes into restoring a forestock like this one. All right, so the next thing here we're going to talk about is the bolt. So as you can see here, this bolt, let's see here now. So right now, this bolt is missing an extractor. So you can see it's missing an extractor and the extractor spring, so that automatically makes it not serviceable. So if we bring this part down here, if we bring the, so now if we take, if we unscrew this, we see that the back portion here is now touching the bolt. And if we screw the bolt head, you'll see it starts moving away. You want that space. You want to have that separation there between the bolt and the bolt, the rear of the bolt there. Because if it's not, then you're going to have issues when this comes forward and strikes the bolt, and that's going to start to wear away. You don't want that to happen. Another thing to do is to check and see if the bolt head is serviceable on the bolt body. Right there, that's good. But anything further out, it's not good. So if this was like a little bit further out this way or this way, when turned as far as you can turn it, then that makes it not serviceable. And the next thing you want to check is the bolt lugs. You want to make sure that they're not deformed or have any issues with them. These ones are deformed, so this bolt body is not serviceable. But you want to make sure that it lines up correctly on your action. So you want to take some Persian blue and put it on the areas that the lugs will lock into, and see if you will get this on, if the Persian blue will pretty much rub off on the bolt lugs. If they do, then your bolt lugs are making contact, and that's a pretty good bolt body there. But this one, somebody looked like they messed up with the bolt lugs, and it's not serviceable bolt body. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the receiver. There could be some issues with the receiver here. So if we slide this bolt in, and you know, this could also be a issue with the bolt head. But if we take this bolt head and we try to pry up on it, it comes off, right? Did you see that? It's not supposed to come off from this point here. It also comes off right there as well. So you don't want it to come off while it's on the guide rail. You know, that's pretty much renders this receiver inoperable if that bolt head comes off. So essentially this receiver is inoperable because of that. And then just check the receiver for any deformations. If there's any deformations or warping, cracking, bent receiver in any areas, or there's some kind of issue, the barrel didn't screw in properly here, so it could be an issue there with the barrel and the receiver. Looks like there is some deformations right here where the barrel would screw into, so yeah, I don't think this receiver is operable at all, and that's what he came to conclusion, was that it's not a serviceable receiver. All right, so now let's take a look at the barrel. We got the barrel here, and this is not a serviceable barrel because it didn't gauge properly. So you want to use a throat gauge, and you want to check that. I don't have a gauge, so I went to Brian and he checked it for me. And this throat was not serviceable. And then we went over here to the bore, and he used a bore gauge to check it. It was a pretty much not serviceable barrel. Well, we could see here, if I take a 303 British round and I stick it right here, you can see that the barrel just eats the whole bullet. You're not going to get a lot of traction off of this barrel and off of this for the bullet. You're not going to, so it like pretty much eats it right up to the brass. And then another thing that he did with this action here is that he actually headspaced it just to make sure everything lined up correctly. He took the gauge and he just kind of stuck it right in here, and he pushed it forward, and used the go gauge and the no-go gauge just to test it out. And he said it was pretty good. It didn't have any issues with head spacing. So that's great. That means that I can actually bring this No1 MkIII back to life and not have any issues with it. So that is a lot of the knowledge that I got from Brian about how to check Lee Enfields. Another rule of thumb he said is, you know, if you got something that looks pretty new, pretty fresh, don't have any accuracy issues, you shoot it occasionally, there's no reason to disassemble it every time you're going to go clean it. There's no reason to disassemble it, you know, just because, you know, you just want to disassemble it. The more you take the pieces off, the more chances you have of damaging things. So it's best to not do those things, right? Another pro tip here is if you're going to take off this rear handguard here, you want to lift up on this front sight first before you pop this off. There's little pieces of wood here, the ears, they will break off if you have the rear sight down. So you want to make sure that you lift this rear sight up and then pop these off. Well, that's it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, what issues you guys have had with Lee Enfields or any British rifles. And let me know what your next project is. You got a Lee Enfield project? I know there's still a lot of sporterized No1 MkIIIs and No4 Mark I stars out there. So let me know what you guys are working on, what you plan to work on. And as always, be sure to learn history and curate history. Make it a great day.